Welcome back, and joining me for a look at the day's markets action is Imtiaz Suliman from Sentio Capital. Thank you so much for your time, Imtiaz. Of course, one of the big things that investors are digesting today is that U.S. inflation print coming out of the U.S. for October. Of course, moving further away from the Fed's 2% target. What did you make of that data?
It was very much in line with expectations at 2.6%. On a month-on-month basis, it rose by 0.2%. So although it's not yet at the Fed's 2% target, the direction has been going down, I guess. And that means that policy rates are on the restrictive end. So if we look at interest rate expectations, we had the recent 25 basis point cut from the Fed. That follows the 50 basis point cut that we had in September. And by all expectations, we should get another 25 basis point cut in December when the Fed meets again. So interest rates are definitely on their way downwards. Inflation has been coming down. I guess something that we need to keep a close eye on is how does various policies impact inflation? So, for example, tariffs by the new administration. And that's one of the factors that is having a significant impact on the dollar, which means a stronger dollar and weaker emerging market currencies. And that's why we saw the rand quite weak today at close to 18 rand 18 to the dollar. And the stronger dollar is having an impact on emerging market currencies as well as commodities, which has put pressure on our market.
All right. Well, talking about that impact, of course, that largely having to do with China, let's go specifically into Tencent. They're coming out with third quarter earnings today. Did miss slightly on revenue, but really coming in way higher than what markets had anticipated on revenue. It was quite surprising that we didn't see much movement in the Naspers and Prosus share price today, even though we did have that upside surprise. Just share some insight into that for us.
Yeah, I think if you look at Tencent's result overall, revenue was up 8%, but the big improvement was in the margin there. And this is driven by the higher margin businesses growing faster. Domestic online games also did quite well, whilst international gaming was a bit softer. But if you look at it, advertising held up very well with the revenue up 17% in that division. And this is despite a tough consumer environment in China and some of the macroeconomic issues that China has been experiencing. So overall, a strong set of results. Tencent has a lot of JVs and investment and associate income, and that also grew strongly. So I think overall, I'm quite happy with the result, and it looks like a very strong result overall.
All right. Well, still on results, Brait coming out with its interim results, seeming that the UK is a thorn for some of the investee companies. We saw low growth there when it comes to Virgin Active from the UK, but also New Look continuing to struggle there. But of course, we did have some highlights coming out, for example, from Premier and also some other countries for Virgin Active. Just talk to us about that, because we did also see the share price climbing by about 5%.
Yeah, Brait, went through a recapitalization in August, where they had a rights issue of 1.5 billion. So that was to make sure that the balance sheet is in good shape. Now what we're seeing is that some of the underlying associate companies like a Premier has been performing very strongly. And then Virgin Active has also recovered pretty much. As you mentioned, New Look, it makes up about 5% of Brait's total asset. And that has been very tough for Brait since the COVID pandemic. So I think, they're going to have a hard look at that business and decide what needs to be done. But overall, part of Brait's strategy is to list some of these underlying companies. And it looks like Virgin Active is also going to be listed in its own right, and we should get access to Virgin Active on a standalone basis rather than through Brait going forward.
All right. Before we get to your stock pick, Imtiaz, let's get to Emira also coming out with half-year results, distributable income per share and the dividend there higher. Not much reaction from the market on this diversified property player. I would maybe guess that this was a satisfactory result.
Yeah, I guess earnings were up slightly. Still very much recovering from a macroeconomic perspective. So we're seeing that property companies are starting to recover. The office space has still been one segment that's been under a bit of pressure, whilst retail and industrial has recovered a bit faster. And the one thing is that administered costs and the likes of municipal rates and that have been going faster than revenue growth, and that has put some pressure on overall margins. But overall, earnings and dividends are going to be slightly up. The yield is still decent for the likes of Emira. And then we look at the LTV, the loan to value, that also has come down by 40 basis points. So moving in the right direction from that perspective.
All right. Well, Imtiaz, let's get to your stock pick for today.
I'm going with TJX. It's a retailer based in the US with operations in Europe and Australia as well, but their main market is the US. What they essentially do is sell discounted branded merchandise, and this appeals to a lot of consumers that are looking for value, but also looking for quality at the same time. So TJX has a large presence of stores throughout the US and around Europe, and they have a number of buyers that look for bargains around the world from the branded goods companies. And they continuously refresh their stock, which makes it some sort of a treasure hunt for consumers to go in and see what's available. But also it helps with their stock turnover and also the appeal for the consumer in finding good value merchandise at the appropriate price.
All right.
So
All right. So thank you so much.
TJX is done.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights there on what has been moving investors' money today. Imtiaz, much appreciated. That was Imtiaz Suliman from Sentio Capital.